So now that you know the different essential discontinuities, ika-classify naman natin ngayon yung mga examples kung anong type ng essential discontinuities sila. Kung jump ba or infinite. So example number 1, f of x is equal to 1 over x. So tignan natin kung anong type of essential discontinuity ang meron siya at x equals 0. So first criterion, check natin, f of 0 must be defined. Okay? So kapag sinubstitute natin yan, that is just equal to 1 over 0, which is undefined. Ngayon, check natin yung kanyang limit. So the limit of 1 over x as x approaches 0 is actually, kukunin natin yung one-sided limits. That is first, yung limit as x approaches 0 from the left, which is equal to negative infinity, at yung second, yung limit as x approaches 0 from the right, which is equal to positive infinity. Okay? So, since yung limit niya ay hindi sila pareho, okay, this means that the limit does not exist. Kaya sure tayo na essential discontinuity siya. And by observing the values of the limit, okay, since infinities yung kanyang one-sided limits, therefore we say that f of x has an infinite essential discontinuity at x equals 0. So second example, g of x is equal to x minus 3 all over x squared minus 2x minus 3, and determine its continuity at x equals negative 1. So first, g of negative 1 must be defined. So by direct substitution, that is just equal to negative 4 over 0, which is undefined. Criterion, check naman natin, nag-exist ba yung limit niya? Okay? So pwede natin actually i-factor out itong part na to. Okay? So that becomes x minus 3 over x minus 3 times x plus 1. So pwede natin tanggalin to. This is just equal to 1, which leaves us with the limit of 1 over x plus 1 as x approaches negative 1. And by direct substitution, that is equal to 1 over 0. Okay? Pero hindi natin alam 0 positive o 0 negative. So we have to check, okay, yung kanyang one-sided limit. So first, the limit of 1 over x plus 1 as x approaches negative 1 from the left is equal to 1 over 0 negative, or that is negative infinity. And the limit of 1 over x plus 1 as x approaches negative 1 from the right is equal to 1 over 0 positive, which is positive infinity. Since hindi pareho yung kanyang limit, this means that does not exist. And particularly, the limits are infinity, which means that g of x has an infinite essential discontinuity at x equals negative 1. Moving on to example number 3, h of x is equal to the piecewise function x minus 1 over the absolute value of x minus 1 whenever x is not equal to 1, and negative 4 whenever x is equal to 1. So let's determine its continuity at x equals 1. So by the first criterion, h of 1 must be defined. Okay? By direct substitution, ano ba yan? Di ba ito ang gagamitin natin? So that is just equal to negative 4. So h of 1 is defined. Okay? Check naman natin ngayon yung second criterion. The limit of h of x as x approaches 1 must exist. Okay? Note that itong absolute value of x minus 1 is equal to x minus 1 if x is greater than or equal to 1, and negative of x minus 1 whenever x is less than 1. Okay? So, i-check natin yung kanyang one-sided limits. First, the limit of x minus 1 all over negative of x minus 1 as x approaches 1 from the left. Kasi from the left, kaya negative yung ginamit. So, pwede natin tanggalin to. That is just equal to the limit of negative 1 or that is equal to negative 1. On the other hand naman, yung limit ng x minus 1 over, syempre yung positive ang gagamitin, x minus 1, as x approaches 1 from the right is equal to the limit of, pwede nating tanggalin yan, i-cancel yan, that is just equal to 1. So, limit of 1 as x approaches 1 from the right, and the limit of that is 1. Okay? So, notice that the limits exist, but they are not equal. Therefore, the limit of h of x as x approaches actually does not exist. Okay? Pero yung one-sided limits, nag-exist sila. Which tells us that h of x has a jump essential discontinuity at x equals 1. Okay? Kasi, hindi nag-exist yung limit, pero hindi siya nag-e-exist dahil hindi sila equal. Okay? Unlike doon sa infinite, hindi siya nag-exist kasi nga infinity yung kanyang mga limits. Okay, move on to example number 4. This is the last example. Okay? So j of x is the piecewise function 3x plus 1 whenever x is less than or equal to 5 and 4x minus 2 whenever x is greater than 5. So let's determine its continuity at x equals 5. So first criterion, j of 5 must be defined. So by direct substitution, gagamitin natin itong nasa taas kasi nga andito yung equal sign. 3 times 5 plus 1 is equal to 16, which means j of 5 is defined. Now, checking the criterion, the limit of j of x as x approaches 5, okay? So meron tayong na split. Okay? So titignan natin yung limit as x approaches 5 from the left, ito yung from the left, and then check din natin yung limit of x as x approaches 5 from the right. So check natin. The limit of 3x plus 1 as x approaches 5 from the left, okay, kasi ito yung less than, that is just equal to, by direct substitution, 3 times 5 plus 1 equals 16. Okay? On the other hand, the limit naman of 4x minus 2 as x approaches 5 from the right, kasi ito yung greater than, by direct substitution, that is 4 times 5 minus 2, that is equal to 18. Both of the one-sided limits exist, however, they are not equal, which means that the limit of j of x as x approaches 5 does not exist. And in particular, this is because the one-sided limits exist but not equal, which tells us that j of x has a jump essential discontinuity at x equals 5.